Yes, there you have it. Thank you so much, Pete and Dan, for that wonderful show. And you are correct, Nuts and Bolts is back. So we're doing things a little bit differently. So when ANZPL in World of Tanks comes back for season 3 later this year, we are definitely going to still be covering that because that's what Nuts and Bolts is for. That's what we love. We love seeing the ANZPL, but we're also going to start covering some other esports news as well. So particularly in the LCO, one of my personal favourites. And if you were watching, Pentanet just beat Gravitas, which puts them outright first on the LCO table in this. Was it Super Week, whatever they're calling it? But they won anyway, so that's great. But tonight we've got something special. So we've got our own NattyWW interviewing Jax Garrett from GGWP, which was set up to help esports people get a leg up and sort of teach them how to start. And it's a really interesting story how they got started. So please sit back, relax, and have a listen to this.
Oh my goodness, there's just like so much to talk about because you are doing everything and everything is happening with GWB. I just wanted to kind of just start the chat because obviously when you started GGWP, the vision was creating a company that would support people coming into the esports landscape and your son being a bit of inspiration for that. I don't know if you want to kind of share your beginning inspiration for GGWP.
Yeah, I can definitely go through a bit of a rundown of the background. I mean, GGWP Academy was loosely based off a scenario. I mean, I had a 9-year-old child who went to a world championships. He went to 2 subsequent ones after that in Pokemon. He was signed to, sort of mid-tier to top-tier esports teams and found sponsorships. So in that first year of him actually playing games at a semi-pro level, he was already earning about 15K a year. And this also included his streaming side of things as well. So through all of that, I was teaching him things like, how do you manage social media? Even though he wasn't in control of his own social media, I was still teaching him about what a personal brand was, how it is that you, navigate that online sphere. And from that, and building out his brand, people started asking me, how did you do this? What is it in your background of knowledge that allowed you to grow this so quickly? And I guess I have such a broad range of knowledge in terms of previous careers. I've worked in a number of different types of careers and industries, and communications and marketing was definitely a part of that. So I was using my personal and professional experience to help him. And so I ended up writing about 20 modules of training. And from that, I was accepted into the Lead Sports Accelerator in Berlin. And I spent 4 months away from my family living in Berlin, going to an accelerator for traditional sports, which was very interesting. Got to meet some really great people. The actual fund and the actual accelerator is run by the 3 eldest sons of Adi Dassler, the Adidas founder. And
wow.
they also serve as our first investors. And so from that, I came back to Australia and I found myself at a little bit of a loss. I was disconnected from the European network I'd just made, and I didn't have that kind of a network in Australia. And so I just started mentoring other startup founders because by now this was already my second startup. And so I felt like I had something to give back. I started helping out a young CMO and CTO who were working on a traditional sports startup. And over the course of about 2 months, I got to know them, their skills, their personalities, and I asked them to join me on the GGWP journey, explaining to them that, traditional sports, while it's still a huge and massive industry, is definitely dying in terms of viewership and things like that. Whereas esports was on the rise, it also had gaming on the other side of it, and that we should follow this market. And potentially change up the business plan just a little bit. So we joined forces and started working together, and we are now here after an
Yeah.
extra year.
I love that, though, the idea that you were reaching out to mentor people because you felt like you needed to give back, and that's how you found your partners moving forward with the GGWP Academy. That's kind of a great story to hear.
It's also something that I'm really passionate about in terms of me personally. When it comes to investing and mentoring, it's definitely something that I see myself doing long term with female founders in particular, and that's definitely an aspiration of mine.
That's great. So a lot has happened in your journey with GGWP Academy so far. Most recently, you've been doing some more funding rounds and working with another accelerator as well. What's that been like, obviously building on the experience you had before moving into another accelerator program?
So, to be honest, the last 2 months have been a complete blur, I'll be honest. Putting together this funding round over Christmas, my lawyer, Matt Jessup, will tell you just how hard we worked over the Christmas period to make sure that all happened as smoothly as it could. And so, yeah, it's been an interesting process. But once I met, I met a particular mentor in the Sydney startup ecosystem, and he introduced me to the two investment groups that ended up investing in us. And I didn't know it at the time, but he was actually an investor on both of those funds. And so, both of his kids actually game as well. And so, yeah, it was an interesting introduction. And once I got to meet the awesome ladies involved in those two groups, it was pretty clear sailing from there because we got along really well. They saw the vision. They knew just because of COVID had kind of highlighted gaming and esports in 2020. And so investors became more acutely aware that esports and gaming was on the rise. And so I think that definitely helped us in terms of educating the investment market. And getting to know those investors was a really great journey as well. But we finally finished it off at the end of January. And we were accepted into the StartMate Accelerator as well. So the StartMate Accelerator is Australia's most ambitious and innovative accelerator. And it's been an absolute pleasure being there for the past 4 weeks.
Oh, so you're still in the thick of it now?
Very much so. It's a 12-week program. Most accelerator programs are.
So that's just the timeline that they feel is best for giving you the skills you need to move forward.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also about the networking. It's about the process. At the end of an accelerator, there's typically a demo day as well. So that's where you get to pitch to everyone about your business and show all the wonderful slides and, try and create a bit more hype with the investors that tend to sit around accelerators and things like that. It's a very interesting ecosystem.
Yeah, so obviously people who are creating the tools are there, but you've got investors. Do they join as participants, or is it kind of designed so at the end the investors are there ready to kind of do a Shark Tank style at the end?
They certainly don't do a Shark Tank at the end, but they will, obviously pay attention to those demo pitches. And if there's something of interest, they would reach out. But they also, some of them, I know that one of ours is actually a mentor on the program as well. So she's very hands-on. It really just depends on their, their availability that particular year to participate, and their interest level and their the information they have to give back.
Yeah, I was very interested in the whole concept of an accelerator and kind of who runs them. So, from your experiences, generally people who are in the venture capital investment
Yes.
space. That
Yes,
makes
correct.
sense. Oh, that makes sense. Oh, so, being 4 weeks in, obviously learning a lot so far. Can you give us a little bit of insight into kind of what a standard accelerator looks like now that you've, working through your second, more
Yeah, no
experience than
worries.
most people will ever have?
They're both very different, the two experiences that I've had, actually. But there are a few common traits that they both have. So both are about 12 weeks long. Both include a 1 to 2 week period of onboarding, which is, icebreakers, getting to know each other, information sessions about the whole program. Then you get into usually your lecture style or workshops and webinars. And so there might be, 3 to 5 of those per week that you would attend and participate in. And that can range on anything from fundraising to growth hacking to product development. And they would have experts from all over the ecosystem coming to do these sessions. So you're basically exposed to the best in the local industry, for each individual topic. And then you have the ability to then put that into practice because they assign you a mentor, or in the StartMate instance, a mentor plus a squad. So we've actually got like 4 mentors around us at the moment who are helping us with different things. And we meet with them weekly. They keep us accountable to our growth goals and assist us in terms of, if I see a particular brand that they might be connected to, can I please have an introduction to them, and they'll send it through, no problem. So it opens your network greatly, and it just gives you a sounding board throughout the process, which is really important because, when you're going through an accelerator that has potentially 50 to 100 mentors on it, you really do need to learn how to siphon out the noise and listen to the things that are extremely important to you and your company.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and it sounds like a great format with having these squads there to have the 4 people in your corner that are helping you really pull apart the unique issues for your brand.
Absolutely,
sounds great.
And we do have a unique business model as well. There's no one else in our cohort that's quite like us, and we've definitely served up some interesting issues to troubleshoot. But between the collective brains, it's been really quite fun working through those problems and finding the solutions on the other side to implement.
So do you think that there is a lot of benefit? It sounds like this particular accelerator has a lot of people from different kind of products, whether your first one was more a sports focused accelerator. Do you think there's more benefit having the breadth of different industries involved, or do you think having the sports focused was more benefit for you?
I think that the sports focused one was very good for networking for us. We set a foundation of a global network that was very interesting, and I still have that network today. But what StartMate has allowed us to do this year has been to localize a network and to go a little bit wider in terms of, connecting with beauty brands or fashion brands, streetwear brands, snack brands, all of the brands that you typically find in esports and gaming. So yeah, it's definitely a different experience, but equal in terms of what they provide, just different areas, I suppose.
That makes sense, and obviously the additional benefit being local. So you've got now people in multiple time zones. If you've got a problem in the middle of the night, you've got someone to call.
Yeah, I tell you what, when you're fundraising in particular as a startup in Australia, the most difficult thing can be trying to pitch overseas. But that's one thing that we were doing quite comfortably. And then COVID hit. and we weren't able to travel to the States like we planned. And so we had to rebuild an entire network here in Australia. And for anyone who knows the investment landscape here in Australia, it's a little bit more risk adverse. They're a little bit more conservative here in Australia. Whereas for gaming and esports in particular, the States are very much all for it. So, and there requires a little bit more education in the Australian market. So it was definitely different. But once I found the right people to connect with, they were able to open up their address book and connect me further with the right people. So very grateful for that.
I think with what you were talking about with COVID, highlighting esports and gaming as being a high area of growth, hopefully that is helping your case as well a little bit too. People are actually aware what's going on in those industries before you're stepping up to try and talk to them about GGWP.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Totally agree.
Oh, wow. So you've obviously got a lot all happening with that. I kind of wanted to discuss about getting into an accelerator. So with your first accelerator, was it just a matter of you Googled it and you found it and you then applied, or do you kind of have to know somebody to help you get into something like that?
So with the Lead Sports Accelerator, a friend who was actually helping out with a little bit of the content for GGWP, he was doing a little bit of help for me at the very beginning there. And he just happened to see it, I think, on social media and flicked it through to me. And when I looked at it, I thought, yeah, this is really cool. And so I sent off an application. And at this stage, you've got to understand I'm the mum of a gamer. I have no technical co-founder. I have no, wider funding, or we're not making revenue. We'd only just registered the business name. And so, you might say that I didn't have possibly enough to even apply. But I was very lucky that this traditional sports accelerator was looking for, they were looking for an entry into esports and gaming. And so they chose me as their first, I guess, guinea pig in that way. And
so it worked out for both of you.
It did, rather. It did. They did about 8 weeks worth of interviews via Zoom. So the selection process was pretty brutal. They had originally 960 odd startups apply. And at the end of the 8 weeks, we were selected, the 9 that were in attendance.
Oh, wow. That's a number, 9 out of 960.
Yeah. And it's the same with StartMate as well. I mean, I think there was something like 600 or 700 applications for StartMate as well. And we made it through that process too.
Oh, wow.
So these can get fairly selective. You have to be very good at expressing what your business does, how it does it, who it benefits, and being really concise but impactful with your messaging.
I was going to say, where did you learn the art of the pitch from? Because clearly you can pitch. Was that something from your previous careers that you had to master, or is that something you kind of learned on the fly?
Yeah, it's really not. I did learn that on the fly, I'll be honest. When I was at university, I'll be completely honest with you, I actually hit the deck. Like I fell to the ground trying to talk in front of 20 people.
Oh, wow.
So that's how nervous a public speaker I was. And now the full evolution, here we are.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's a massive personal growth story for sure.
So I did want to kind of cover off, what you were doing before, the beginning of and kind of what's led to all this success. So what did you study at uni?
Bachelor of Communications, majoring in PR.
Okay. And so obviously your career path after that was in those fields, just working for other companies?
Actually, I have never worked and put that to use in a corporate sense.
Oh, wow.
So I think in order to understand my journey, we need to go back just a tiny bit briefly.
Yeah.
I actually left school when I was 14. And
Oh, wow.
I was not a good student. I hated high school with a passion. And so I left and started just working retail jobs, between then and, 21. I did a few office jobs, nothing really stuck, if that makes sense. But at the age of 21, I went back and did Open Foundation for mature age students. And much to my family's surprise, got a exceptionally high UAI or ATAR these days. Somewhere in the 97 mark. And it was a complete surprise for everyone around me because they didn't know I was doing Open Foundation.
That's
I
incredible.
didn't tell anyone. I just went off and did it. And then found myself accepted into communications, which at the time had a high pass rate, like a high ATAR
requirement.
Requirement. Yeah.
Oh, that is super cool. So I'm assuming at school you were just bored. Like this is
Completely.
what I tend. Yeah, that's what I tend to hear from these. All these incredibly smart and talented people that just get bored at school and they leave, and then later in life they kind of work out a little bit more what they want to do, and they come back and they just get it done.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I just hated the politics of high school, to be honest. And I'm much like that today. I don't deal in drama. I don't deal in politics. I just leave that for other people, to be quite honest. I'd rather just get on with stuff.
Well, it's working. It seems to be the right recipe for sure. So you do your uni degree, but then you don't use it. What's the next step after uni then?
I mean, I grew up in Newcastle. There were literally, I think, 3 positions. So we're going back to like 2001 here. I'm showing my age. And in 2001, there were maybe 3 positions for PR professionals in this city. And so it meant that I would have to move away regardless. And so I didn't really pursue it because I thought that's really not just going to happen. We just graduated, I don't know how many hundreds of students. We can't all have 3 positions. And so where did I go first? I went into jewelry design and started studying gemology. I was working for... Yeah, I've done a very broad range of things.
Yeah.
I've worked in scuba diving. I've worked in aviation. What else? Fashion, writing for local publications. I've just literally done I think I counted at one time there was 18 different industries that I've worked in.
No way. That's amazing though. Like I can see that's probably just part of how your brain works, that you're always looking for another challenge and something new to learn and tackle, and through your career's been how you've done that.
Very much so. And I think that is one of the major reasons why startup in general works well for me, because I am quite a good problem solver. I think very laterally. Nearly all the time, which upsets some people, but it is what it is.
So do we dare ask more questions there?
Oh, no. It's nothing. It's no story in particular or anything else. I just know that my lateral thinking can get a little bit hard to deal with sometimes if you're working with me very closely because I go completely off topic, but somehow manage to bring it all the way back around to it.
Yeah. I think that's what you need, though. It's exactly what you're talking about. Just creative problem solving is probably 90% of what you're having to tackle every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a very interesting journey. but I finally found my place, and the commitment is here currently to be with GGWP Academy, and for the next 5 to 7 years is the plan. That is the typical length of a company in esports or gaming before they get acquired, and so that is the very loosely held game plan.
So that is your goal. You're not going to hold on to your brainchild forever. At some point, you're going to let it go and reap the rewards.
I think at some point, and I think this is true of any company, at some point there is always going to be a tipping point where somebody else could do the job better than you.
Yeah.
They're going to have fresher ideas, a more current network. They're going to have, and that changes throughout time in any industry. So I'm a firm believer that in order for the company to stay innovative, that sort of thing will have to happen at some point in that later future.
Mm. Oh man, but that I appreciate you have vision of that too as part of the long term, is that 5 to 7 years, and then you're probably going to start some other adventure at that time.
I think I'd like to start investing in female founders globally.
Oh yeah, I've seen a lot on your social media where obviously you've been connecting into those networks to help you with GGWP, but also giving a lot back. The Women in Games conference recently you were advocating for, and you're a what's the right word? I can't. You work with them as
ambassador.
Well. Ambassador, thank you.
A very, very strong believer in women working in industries where, typically over the last 30 years it's been more male dominated. Very much all for changing those ratios. And the same is true in investment and, in startups in general. So it's something I feel very passionately about. I feel like any woman who does get a leg up, so to speak, or a bit of help in their career, or to get a little bit further forward, they have a responsibility to turn around and help the other women behind them, is kind of my thesis. So I'm always looking to act on that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really awesome. No Margaret Thatchering here. Sorry, I feel like I can bring back that reference because of The Crown. I feel like more people know about it now.
Yes, well, that's true. I too am a Crown watcher.
Oh, good. Oh, so obviously startup life is super stressful, and you do a little bit of gaming. You've just mentioned that, a little bit of telly, but do you kind of, I know, speaking personally, having to work some of my work time at home, it's really difficult to separate my job and my personal time sometimes. Do you have strict boundaries of this is my work time and this is my off time, or how do you manage that work-life balance?
I very rarely put up that barrier. I put up that barrier for my son and my husband, and that's it. I put it up when it's necessary. So a lot of my life is overlapping. Unfortunately, at the moment, I think in this particular growth phase, I can't afford not to be doing that. But there are definitely times, when something important is happening or someone needs my full attention in my family, whereby I will literally put the phone down or not take it with me, or, because if I were to have my notifications on during the day, I get well over 1,500 to 2,000 notifications a day now.
Wow.
So I can't.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that boggles my mind. I complain about the couple hundred emails I get, but that's what next level, and I'm assuming mixed across all sorts of platforms and instant
All of them,
messaging
yeah.
where people are expecting replies in 2 seconds. And
Yeah. It is pretty constant at the moment, especially with the announcement of our pre-seed funding last night on LinkedIn.
Yes, I did see that news. Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, my inbox has just gone a little bit crazy in the past 24 hours. So, if you're waiting for a response, it's coming.
I mean, that was huge news, I think, especially in, the Australian gaming and esports sector, the success that you've had with your funding rounds, and the idea, I was reading an article that you're actually having to turn away investors for this round.
We were
just so exciting.
Which I didn't expect to be a thing. But we were definitely oversubscribed and had to cut it off at a certain point for sure.
So when you're looking at your funding rounds, you normally have something in mind for, this is the next part of the product we want to build. We need to raise this amount of money, and then you're offering up kind of shares in the company for investment at that time. Is that generally speaking how the seeding rounds work?
Yes.
Yeah. Good. I just want to make sure. It's kind of a bit out of my usual realm. So get the answer from the expert.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely had in mind what we need to accomplish next, and in order to do that, we needed to raise the pre-seed round that we just closed, and then we have it in our minds to go for a seed round at the very end of this year. So it's going to be a year of what are the words I'm looking for? It's going to be a year of really proving our market, proving our product market fit, building and getting to know our customers intrinsically. Doing a lot of work, with our customers, working with ambassadors, onboarding brands. We've got a lot to do. So, yep.
Yeah, I kind of did want to talk a little bit more. You mentioned about, your new networks in Australia really being helpful with getting connections with, the snack companies and those kinds of brands that are coming on board with esports. How hard of a sell is it usually to people who aren't natively involved in gaming or connected in gaming in some way? How do you present your product differently versus somebody who might already have a fair bit of knowledge on gaming and esports? What is your how does your pitch vary, I guess, is my question.
I think the key difference is that if you were to look across the landscape of esports and gaming, you'll find a lot of people who have only worked in esports and gaming. With such a broad knowledge in my background, I think that it's a different way of communicating and understanding what that gap in knowledge is, so that you can quickly address the education gap and then speak to them in their own language. I think the major difference, though, is going to be the warm versus cold introduction. And that's the same of any networking, really, or any sales funnel. If you have a warm connection, say your friend came to you and said, I vouch for this company, they're really cool to work for. You're going to be more open and more trusting and more excited to work with that company, as opposed to somebody who just hit you up on LinkedIn and said, hey, you want to work with us?
Yeah, right. And
so
in
the
sea
major
of
difference.
in the sea of 15,000 notifications a day.
Exactly.
You're not going to see that.
Exactly. So I think that those warm introductions are definitely the major difference here.
It is interesting, though. You mentioned, speaking the language. I think, a lot of people native to gaming and esports do throw a lot of jargon in, and they don't really realise until they're looking at puzzle faces across the side of a Zoom call, and then go, oh, wait, what?
I mean, I still see it, even at an executive level, the amount of buzzwords that don't really, mean anything.
Mm.
They're talking an esports language that doesn't necessarily translate to a commercial brand. And so making sure that you know how to translate one to the other and to quantify it and back it up, I think is another way that you can earn their trust and make sure that they can, work with you and get to know you a bit better.
I was talking to somebody a while back about this, and basically you have to make sure you're demystifying whatever topic you're presenting, because people don't want to invest in magic. They want to understand. Well, they want to understand what's going on. So it's good that
Totally
that's
correct.
your approach too. Yeah.
I mean, my theory has always been to build long-term relationships. I'm never somebody to just get in for a quick deal or you know what I mean? I'm somebody who will, I'll get to know you over a long period of time and then start to work with you. So, yeah, I think that's just my way.
Yeah. Well, you can better assess somebody's needs and what direction they're coming from if you've developed a genuine connection with them, rather than
For sure.
You're a company, you have money.
That's what we did with Logitech as well, being our education partner. It was really good to get to know those guys over the course of, I don't mean the brand, because the brand, you see it online all the time. You see it in the products. Even if you look around your home, you're guaranteed to have a Logitech something.
Mm.
But just getting to know them a little bit better and work with their US team as well as their Australian team was exceptionally important to me in getting to know, how we can best help each other and work together. So I'm very grateful to have that long-term relationship.
Mm. That's good, and it's nice with a company like Logitech, I think, who have base here in Australia as well. A lot of companies, I think, when you work with them, and if they've got an overseas base, it's can be challenging to develop those relationships.
For sure. And I mean, I did originally connect with their US team, and they connected me with their Australian team. And then I went to meet them at PAX, and then we met up again in Sydney. It was a long process of getting to know each other, and for them to understand as well who we are and what we're going to do.
Yeah. How now that you mentioned PAX, how important are and have been events like that in building your GGWP Academy? I mean, I know we met in person at PAX. I think 2019. I want to say 2019.
Yes. Yeah, it would be.
And I think it's a really great way to be able to connect and make your networks. How do you see that shaping in future, where we might not have conferences for a little while yet in person?
I find that devastating. I love face-to-face contact. I love the networking and, going and being with people. And so I'm really missing that aspect of things at the moment. I'm sure a lot of people are.
Yeah.
I think it was even a part of our business plan and our budget. I can still see PAX ghosted out on my budget at the moment.
Oh.
And it's like the saddest little reminder.
Oh, sorry, I'm bringing up the trauma again now.
The trauma of no PAX. Anyways, but I do believe that there is a huge networking advantage to being at PAX and TwitchCon and BlizzCon and, all of those events. I have met some of the greatest people in this industry through those events. The people who will help you, the people who will support you, will introduce you, will, I mean, if you take it seriously, yes, definitely have fun at PAX. That's what it's there for. But also always make sure to take out some time to ensure that your network grows. And that's the same no matter who you are in the industry. If you're just starting out as a streamer, that can be, something that you go and do. You want to meet someone from a particular brand that you really, enjoy using, or you want to work with, potentially another creator. So go and meet them. It's just really what it's there for. So I'm missing it greatly.
Yeah. I'll never forget the very first PAX I went to, and this was like, I think I want to work in the gaming industry. And I was in
Nice.
line with a woman waiting for a panel, and we just started talking. And she was, one of the major investors in Canberra game developers. Like she
Nice.
would help with them. And it's just about being switched on to opportunities when you're getting to meet in person that is always going to make the difference, I think, between a person that's going to have success in the industry and somebody who maybe will have a bit more of a harder climb without those connections.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's always about what you can offer them. You don't meet someone and ask them for something. It's just not the thing you do. You've always got to be the one to offer first. You've got to show your value in order to get value.
Yeah, and honestly, gems like that is what is going to make GGWP Academy amazing. Like
That's actually in one of our videos, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, like those little glimpses of actually being part of community is what you can provide to others, and then you will get in return is just a philosophy for life, I think, in general anyway.
I think one of the coolest things to happen recently would be that we just beta tested our influencer rank for the first time, and we did that with 30 of our closest gamers in our little Discord group, and we've been getting the feedback and everything else. So we started, you can see the natural competition break out in people. And the people who are really going to push themselves are the ones who are in that competition. Like, I ranked number 1, okay?
Oh, heck
for
yes.
12 hours. But it was interesting because they were all like DMing me and, so how do I get my rank up from here? What do I need to do? And, explaining to them that they had to consume the education to improve their rank was almost like this, this aha moment. You can see them then, on the back end, we can't see who has watched what, but we can see how many have watched what. And you can see the increase as soon as I started telling people that. And it was just really cool to see people actively engaged in education around the soft skills of gaming and esports.
Wow. You're talking about obviously like an influencer rank being just a way to gamify the whole process.
Yes, but it also tells them how high up in the chain that they are in terms of when we serve that search criteria to brands. So when we're connecting gamers with brands for campaigns, the higher up you rank, the more likely you are to be shown to that brand.
So obviously it's got the practical purpose of why you built the app in the first place, but you can see how motivating it is for people to want to raise their rank as well.
And I mean, that's why our hashtag is smarter influence. We're not calling content creators influencers. Let's be, completely honest about that. But we are talking about the ability to influence an audience in a smarter way that drives higher ROI for brands.
Yeah, the one tool to kind of bring it together for everybody. So you've got the people who are influencing, understanding how it works, and also I really love your approach of where you're focusing on the safety and health and well-being for them as well. And then you've got your brands component where they can get in touch with the people that they want to share their brands, which is
it's
awesome.
A very exciting piece of technology. We'll be working on it all this year. We've only unleashed the first feature, so we've got a lot to do.
Oh, but it's good. It's good that you've had the positive feedback from the betas.
God, they loved it. It was amazing.
Did you get any other insights from that round? Obviously, they're all keen and engaging with it, but was there anything else that you learned that's kind of going to be shaping how you roll it out?
Oh, look, the people who have been involved in this have definitely shaped how the interface is going to present to people on the gamer side of things. And so I think that, I mean, we've taken inspiration and feedback from all kinds of places, including throughout the StartMate process and our beta testers and wider community. So I think that it's basically a culmination of all of those put together as to what actually makes it into the app.
Mm. So you've got lots and lots of ideas. You're just going to test them all out on your guinea pigs and see which ones stick.
Usually the way it happens. However, with every single round, we also managed to knock out a few of those ideas and go, right, well, that isn't going to work. You know, what's next in that direction? And so we might switch to something else. But we also have a very strong roadmap of where we're headed. So there are some things that we will do regardless, and there are some things that will be shaped by the experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're building on the knowledge and information you're receiving as you go, as well as having a long-term strategy in mind.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is exactly what you want, because you might be thinking you're heading in a particular direction, and then you get really positive feedback about something you didn't expect. You can be agile enough to jump into that.
Well, that is the benefit of being a startup instead of a major corporation. The speed at which you can pivot and move and change, the flexibility of who you can work with and how. And I mean, that's one of the most enjoyable parts about what we do for me.
And you do have like a small team working with you now. Obviously, the two original other members you were talking about that were, you know, heading into sports, and you convinced them to jump on board with you.
Yep.
Who else do you have on your team now?
So my two co-founders are Cassie Pua, our CMO, and John Keto, who is our CTO. And we have just recently, as in they started last Monday, employed James Pan and Fran Milton, who some people might know from the industry already as our new community manager.
Oh, wow. So I love that idea as well. You don't have like a giant hulking team where communication is going to be an issue, and those quick pivots are going to be a problem. You're all probably in contact with each other every day and
Very
changing direction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably one like a lot of those instant messages are from the team.
We do have a fairly active Slack channel, yes.
So I kind of wanted to cover off a little bit about, you know, if there's other people that are in Australia that have great ideas and products that they might want to launch that would need to be going down a similar path to you. What advice you might have for them?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I mean, it depends so heavily on the type of product they want to launch into the market. And I think that learning to filter out the noise is a really big one. Don't take advice from people who you wouldn't seek out. Don't take criticism from those who you wouldn't seek out for advice. So if they're not educated on the market and they're not educated on what you're doing, don't listen to their criticism.
That is so valuable to hear. Like,
it took me a while to learn that one.
Yeah, because the amount of information you take on board, because, you know, this person might be involved in gaming, but not necessarily anything to do with your stream that you're looking at. And yeah, that's a good one.
If that person hasn't, you know, done anything similar to what you're doing, you know, you don't need to listen to them. If you are feeling that you have, you know, an intuition or that passion to do what you're doing, then I suggest you do it, and you don't stop until you reach, you know, the outcome that you want. I mean, in the last, I would say 2 years, I've had a lot of people tell me, you know, hey, you know, why are you still on this? Because it was quite a long journey, I'll be honest. And being a female founder automatically puts you back in terms of finding investment. And I had quite a few people, even close people who I really respected, saying to me that, isn't it time it's smart to know when to quit. To the point where we moved out of our house into my mother's basement. Okay. Like the sacrifice level went above and beyond in this business. And people were sort of, having a problem with that. They saw that was too much to give. But, I think that we held out just enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think if you have that long-term vision there, and with all the previous experience you had, I feel like it was just a matter of time, But it would be hard hearing messages, not positive messaging, like, have you sacrificed too much?
It was an interesting time.
Yeah.
And it came towards the end of last year, and it was just it was quite disheartening actually to realize that of some people. But I think you've just got to know what noise to cut and educate yourself as much as possible. You want to be watching every YouTube video, every stream, any panel, reading blogs. You want to find out as much as you can about the ecosystem that you work in, and about the wider ecosystems that affect you. And you want to find those groups of people like accelerators that can truly accelerate your growth and help you, and learn what it is that they need from you so that you can tune things towards that, while still reaching your industry goals, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It definitely does. Oh, I am very just amazed that you've pushed through. It sounds like it's a really challenging process, I think, for any startup, but you've you had those additional challenges that you've mentioned on the way through. So it's nice you're getting all the success you are this year, and hopefully onward and upward from here.
Absolutely. We're in a great place right now. We're moving with such pace, and it is just exhilarating. So I can't begrudge that journey. It is what made us what we are. And I think that we're a very resilient team, and that will serve us well in the future. We've also got a certain amount of clarity around what we're doing because of that journey. So I feel like we're in a very good place right now, and the next 3 months for us are going to be very telling. So I can't wait to deliver.
Oh my God, I have all my fingers and toes crossed for you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to mention, if you just want to let people know where they can find GGWP Academy and where they can connect with you online.
For sure. I'm Jax Garrett 3 on Twitter, and GGWP Academy, all one word, as a Twitter tag, and www.ggwpacademy.com. But if you type in GGWP Academy to both app stores, you'll be able to download our app and start learning how to monetize your career in gaming.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been really wonderful to catch up, and I've been meaning to do it anyway, but I'm also very aware you've been very busy. So appreciate we managed to get it happening.
Always great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jackie.
How great was that? How awesome is Jackie and GGWP, man? That is incredible. Seeing their journey and listening to all the things that they're doing, it's just so amazing. So this interview was actually recorded back in February, and for those that are watching a catch up VOD on Twitch or on YouTube, it is now July. So a little bit of water has passed under the bridge since then, and Jax has provided us with a bit of an update on how GGWP Academy is going. And also there's links to their Twitter, to Jax's Twitter and GGWP Academy's Twitter, and also the GGWP Academy website in the Twitch chat there. So definitely go and give them a visit. But yeah, GGWP Academy is completed star, mate. they managed to partner with Logitech for another year. That's awesome. And they doubled their team size. So now they've also got on board, there's a junior software developer, a community manager, and a business development manager. So they're really going gangbusters there with what they're doing. They've also recorded another 50 training videos. 50, that is incredible. So that's lots more tips and tricks that you guys can have to monetize a career in gaming if that's where you want to go. So definitely give them a look up. They're also built and tested version 1 of their marketplace and started connecting gamers with brands like EA Games, Logitech, PDP, CCs, and Warner Music. So there's like, because that's what this is about. It's about having a space where gamers can go, and esports gamers can go to just find a place and connect with these sponsors, because it's an expensive thing if you're trying to get to all these events. And so having that little bit of extra help is really good. And the fact that the GGWP are marrying gamers up with these sponsorship deals is great, because it's often one of the hardest things is to find those connections and make those connections to say, yes, we'll go into a brand and go, I'm here, here's what I can do, help me, and the fact that GGWP Academy is doing a lot of that for you is just an amazing thing. Another thing they're also doing is they're growing their community, which is amazing. And we always want to see some of that as well. Like, we love our community here, and anybody that's growing there, a great loving community full of legends is just amazing. And of course, they're continuing on. There's so much more that they can do and that they've got to offer. So thank you so much for joining us, Jax. If you're not already, go follow her on Twitter. Follow the GGWP Academy on Twitter, and stay tuned because they're doing some amazing things. So thank you so much for joining in for this sort of soft reboot of Nuts and Bolts. Next week we've got another chat that Natty's had earlier this year but this time with Jess Goat, who's a commentator and caster for, I think, Rainbow Six. So she talks about her journey and how her experience in the industry has been. So that's going to be another great listen. Tune in for that next week. So, but yeah, stick around.
Wow, I hope you enjoyed that show. And if you want to make sure that you stay up to date with everything that Game On Aus has to offer here on YouTube, make sure you click the subscribe button. That's the best way